Hello and welcome along to Adobe Muse Basics with your host Robert Smith. In this part 2 of creating an interesting scroll effect, I'm going to try and explain how the scroll works. Now this is probably one of the trickiest things I've encountered in the Adobe world for a long time, but once you get your head around it, it's a lot easier than you think it is. Now for example, I've got a fish, just an image of a fish I've placed on a Muse page like this, and if I click on it, it looks like that. I'll just turn that off. Like you could move that around wherever you like. So let's have a look at that page. If I preview that page in the browser and I start to scroll down like this, you'll see you get a scroll bar on the right hand side, and as I scroll down that fish goes up, which makes a lot of sense. That's how scrolling works. That's what you're used to in every other situation on the web. But we're going to change that. We're going to interfere with that using the scroll effect. So let's get stuck in. So how you apply a scroll effect is you select whatever item you want to do it to on the stage like that, and up here under you'll see a thing called FX Scroll Effects. If you can't see it there, it'll be under Window Scroll Effects like that. So I'm going to go over here and click on this, and up it comes. Now there are 4 sorts of scrolls. There's motion, there's opacity, there's slideshow, and there's edge animate. Let's see if we can get our head around just the motion part today. Okay, to apply motion, I simply click on this little icon like that, and I get a tick, and I get this, all of a sudden I get this little line coming out of the top of my image or whatever it is I'm trying to scroll. Okay, what that's telling me, and this is really hard to get your head around at first, is that this point here is 231 pixels from the top of the page. That's this point here. As you can see over here, it tells me it's 231 pixels from the top of the page. And what that really is doing is separating this page into 2. It's saying, okay, everything before 232 pixels, whenever it's like that, if it starts to scroll up to 231 pixels, do whatever it says here in these 4 boxes here. Let me explain briefly what this means. It's really, really simple. Do you want to go up, down, left, or right? That's all it simply means. And a scroll of 1 is the speed that the browser normally scrolls at. Okay, so before 231 pixels, while it's scrolling down, we want it to go up, scroll up at the speed of 1, which is the normal browser. But when it hits 231, we want to do this, what's called the final motion. So a scroll's in 2 parts. The first part is before this number here in terms of pixels from the top of the page, and once you scroll past this point, this part kicks in. So this time, instead of going up, let's go down. So I'll click down. By the way, a number of 0 means it's not going anywhere, okay? But this case I'm going to make it 0.5. So what's going to happen is, when I click on this, click on it again, for the first 231 pixels, it's just going to go up at the normal speed of the browser. But the minute it hits 231, it's going to turn around and go down, go the opposite direction at half the speed. That's 0.5. Okay, so have you got a headache yet? That's where I got a headache. But a little bit of practice and a bit of dedication, and it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to preview page in browser like this, and away I go. I start to scroll down or scroll up like that. The minute it hits 231, you'll notice now it's scrolling in the opposite direction. So you see what we can do. We can actually scroll things at different speeds, and that's what gives us this fancy scrolling effect. Okay, let's do a little bit more with that. Okay, right now I've got 231 pixels like this, and I've got 2 things happening. What about at say 231, instead of going down at 0.5, let's take that to 0, and let's go to the right at 0.5. Let's see what happens. So again, remind ourselves how this works. We have this key position, I think they call it, this thing here. I think if you roll over it, yeah, they call it that, and that's this point here at the top. And you can move that to wherever you like just by clicking and dragging it up and down like that. But in this case, we'll put it back to 230, around there, it's fine. Okay, great. Okay, so now before 231, it's just going to scroll up normally, but the minute it hits 233 this time, it's going to scroll to the right. Now let's have a look at that. We'll preview that page in browser. So here we go, start to scroll up, and the minute we hit 231, it doesn't go anywhere vertically, it just goes horizontally because we've told it to. And as we scroll back up again, you'll notice that it starts to, the minute it hits that, it does its normal scroll. Okay, let's do another one while we're here, while we're hot. Okay, what we want to do is, let's say for example, we don't want any initial motion. We just want this to, let's say for example, we want it to stick at the top of the page. We don't want it to go any further. Okay, so let's have a look what we'd have to do. What we're going to have to do is, we're going to have to grab this point and drag it right down to there. So now my key position there is 331. So the minute it hits 331, it's going to do what's down here. Before 331, it's going to do what's up here. So in this case, let's just slow it down a little bit. So 0.5 will slow it down like that. So for the first 331 pixels, the browser will scroll up normally at 0.5. But the minute it hits this final motion down here, we don't want it to do anything. So if I put 0 and 0 in there, in other words, don't go anywhere, that'll hopefully make it stick to the top of the page. And this is an effect we do a lot. So the trick, of course, is to have motion up to your key position and then nothing after that. Okay, let's try that. Preview my page in browser, and here we go. And it will just scroll to the top like that for the first whatever that number was, and then it will just stick there like this. That's a great effect. Okay, let's do one more while we're here. The same thing. This time, what I want to do is I want it to start scrolling straight away. In other words, with motion like this, I'm going to click on my motion. I want this to not have a first. It's very hard to select that sometimes. So what I'm going to do is select it over here and just type in 0 like that. So now if you have a look at it, you'll see my key position is right at the top of the page. So what that means is none of this will kick in, this initial motion, because it'll always be past 0. Okay, so it'll only be final motion will kick in like that. So what I want to do is I'm going to type in here 0.5 like that, 0.5, and let's make it go down like that. So it'll go down, it'll start straight away. So let's try that again. Preview page in browser, and as we start to scroll, you'll notice it doesn't go up at all. Because the 0 point was at the top of the page, or the key position, none of these four numbers kicked in. Now I hope that was a reasonable explanation of how it works, and I must admit this is about my third or fourth week on this, getting my head around it. So it's all it needs is a bit of practice. Do a few more tutorials and a little bit of practice here with the scroll effects in Muse, and you'll be able to create amazing landscapes, if you like. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video. We'll start working on the original page. Thanks for watching.